Hello and welcome to the Wolves Report. I'm Ryan Lester and thank you for joining us for episode 82, where tonight we'll analyse the players and the performance from the Forest game at the weekend where it ended 1-1. We'll take a look at the season so far, take some of your questions and look ahead to Sunday afternoon's game against West Ham United. All the boys are here tonight. We've got a special guest from Mirror Football, Ben Husband, as our guest this week. Thanks for coming back, Ben. Noki's away negotiating a move to the MLS, currently in Vegas at the moment. And of course, we've got our Director of Football, Chris Tyler. Let's get straight onto it. We're going to try and make it better than it sounded, or probably more of a reality check, to be honest. Ben, it finished Wolves 1, Forest 1, in what could be described as a game that was probably lacking a lot of quality.
Yeah, It was disappointing in terms of, it's a game that Wolves would have had down as a victory that they would have been fancied. I didn't think it was as bad as the post-match discussion has been. Forest created very, very little of their own work. There was a few things that we did wrong. And yeah, it wasn't great. There's things we'll discuss about how it can be better. But I think it's a bit of a reality check and a reminder that, the manager's been there a few months. He had 3 days before the season started, and that everything isn't perfect and everything isn't amazing. And there's still stuff that he's working on and stuff that he's doing. So, yeah, a bit of a reality check. A bit disappointing because, it felt like a good opportunity to get another win, but it's not the end of the world. Not losing that game is more important because it keeps Forest the same distance and things like that. So, yeah, there's room to improve. I didn't think it was terrible.
Tyler, there was... To put your finger on it, what was the most disappointing thing on Saturday? I know we could pick out several players, but what was the thing that went wrong the most?
I'm a bit with Ben, really. I don't think it's as bad as everyone's making out. When I saw the lineups, it was everything I expected it to be. And when I saw Forest basically in a 5-4-1, if not a 5-3-1-1, it's what we've talked about, for months, isn't it? We lack that cutting edge. We lack that creativity. We lack a bit of pace. We lack movement. The team was so static. For me, to answer your question, the biggest disappointment was we probably didn't mix it up. We didn't try and do anything different. We didn't try to go forward at the back and have a bit of a gamble. All the subs were a bit like for like. But within the game itself, for me, it was the lack of movement. There were times I was watching it second half and the centre halves would have the ball and there was nothing in front of them. There was no movement. And it was going back to the old days of back and sideways, wasn't it? The simple pass. People weren't willing to gamble, take a risk, take people on. And I think, to answer your question, that was probably my biggest frustration. But I'm with Ben, really. 2 very average performances. We've picked up 4 points. On to the next one. It's not a coincidence, we've been better against the better sides that give us space, that let us play and let us break. So, yeah, the game was all I thought it was going to be when I saw the lineups, and it turned out that way. We gave Forest a lead. We gave them something to hold on to. Like Ben said, they created nothing themselves. I think they had 3 chances and they were all self-inflicted. So, yeah, like I said, I'm fairly content, really.
Ben, it was a frustrating afternoon, but I don't want to overcredit Forest, but a team that's just been spanked 5-0 are never going to go to an away game and take the game to the opponents.
No, it's damage limitation. I mean, a few years ago, I think we had Blues after they just lost 7-0 in the Championship, and it was essentially the same pattern of game. Yeah, that they're never going to come out and look to do anything. And there was a lot of other things going around it as well. Forest, whatever you say, they haven't given up on the manager, and that was a much more committed performance from them. And look, also you've got to remember, in my opinion, Wolves are missing 2 of their 3 most important attacking players in Neto and Aït-Nouri, because you see the centre-backs, and that ball to Aït-Nouri is what they look for pretty often. And it was going to Semedo, and Semedo was fine, but Forest were completely happy to leave the left side completely alone. They had absolutely no interest in concerning themselves with Bueno. Absolutely nothing. So the whole team and the whole structure of the game was getting the ball to Semedo and going from there. And we just lost a bit of balance. It was a bit lopsided. But I think teams that are at our level, which is a mid-table team, if you take two of their best players out, they're not going to look as fluid going forward.
So with that in mind, Tyler, would you say, I mean, we talked about this, I think, off air briefly before, should the manager have reacted before? Is there a chance is there a chance for Sasa Kalajdzic to come on earlier? A chance to go to a back four? I mean, Toto was having a stinker anyway, so Bueno coming off and play with a four to get an extra man, another forward, maybe another wide player on, or Bellegarde to support more, because he did seem to make the changes late on. Whether that's now he's lost, we know now who he clearly trusts and doesn't trust, whether it's more of that, or was he content with the way it was going because, well, actually, you know what, it's not that bad, 4 points from 2 games.
Yeah, I think he was pretty happy with the point, to be honest. You know, we've seen other games where he has gone to the full, Sheffield United, the way he did it. We got the equaliser, ultimately lost. So we have seen games where he's gone to that 4. Personally, as a fan, I'd have liked to have seen it. I'd have liked to have seen us have a bit of a go. I'd have probably liked to have seen Doyle introduced rather than Boubacar, because again, we didn't have that creative element that I saw that from Greg. We didn't have, you know, the ability to just keep the ball, but progressive. You know, we've said about Doyle, he'll get it and he'll look forward and he'll try and play that pass, and we didn't have that, did we? So yes, to answer your question, I'd have liked to have gone to a 4 for the last 20, 25 minutes. Why not? We're not going to get relegated. We're not going to finish in the top 4. Try and win the game. You know what I mean? There's nothing to lose, is there? It's a point at the end of the day. But I get the feeling that he was happy with that point. As I said, the subs were very like for like. He kept the shape. And yeah, like Ben said, we're a mid-table team. We're a 12th to 14th place team. I mean, what are we expecting? We're not going to win every game. We're not going to blow teams away, especially when we're missing, 2 of our most creative and better players.
Will end up where they end up in the league. And it's not because they're on their day, they're the 12th best team in the Premier League. It's because their day doesn't come every week. We've seen that when Wolves play to their standards, they're a match for anyone in the division. But the reason that Wolves are a mid-table team is because that isn't Man City and the teams towards the top of the division put those performances in every week. Wolves aren't going to do that because they are what they are. And that's why I think, and in defence of O'Neill, we were controlling the game in the shape that we was in. Yes, we didn't go on to win the game, but there was, the concern for me would have been, look at the reaction to what has been a 1-1 draw. Had he changed that shape in the second half and Wolves got overrun a little bit in mid, because they were being overrun in midfield a little bit anyway. If they'd have gone on to lose that game, you know, and he'd have brought on an extra striker and took a defender off, I still don't think people would have gone, at least we went for it. Like the reaction still would have been very negative.
That's really fair. But what I would say in the past is we rolled the dice at Sheffield United and lost, and we rolled the dice the following week and won and beat Spurs. So in that situation, you took him for both games. You're a point worse off.
But he's rolled the dice when we're losing the game. He's not rolled the dice at when we're. And listen to what he said after Burnley. His job was to make £90 million profit and keep Wolves in the Premier League. And getting 4 points this week is a long way to doing that. Like that is a big week for Wolves, picking up 4 points against teams that are below them in the league. So they get no closer. You get further away from one of them. That's a huge week.
In reality, boys, just a quick poll, put your hands up. Would you have taken 4 points if it was offered to you before those 2 games? Hands up for a yes.
Well, I would have expected to win both games.
Probably. But I want 6, same as that, yeah.
But I'm not going to turn my nose but 4, because it's 4 more points. And I also get the feeling that there is a little bit of like, let's get to when Neto's back. Let's get through this little patch without Neto. Let's get to January, see what we can do there. And I think there is a feeling of just ticking off a few games now, because we're stacking up some points and it's just ticking through now. Because especially December, when you play so many games, by the end of this month, Wolves could effectively be safe if they pick up a couple more positive results. So just keep ticking them off this month. It's a horrible month as well. So many games, and I thought they looked leggy. I thought they looked like they played 3 games in a week, because that was
to work hard, doesn't he?
That was a big thing that he said, though, that he wasn't happy with the fitness levels of the squad, and this is, 3 games in a week, and maybe they were feeling that a little bit as well. So I think there's factors. I think they could have been better, but I can give them a week off.
Yeah, I suppose as well, Ben, with Kalajdzic, I think he was done on Sarabia, but Sarabia's come in, and I know Tyler's a big fan of his quality, and he does add quality in those tight situations. But elsewhere, it looks very limited on in terms of who he trusts. So I could understand that, and he's based on a lot of hard work and what he do and the way they squeeze the game in certain areas. You can understand that. Let's move back to the game. Tyler, it was a bit of not a comedy of errors, but it's very much a self-inflicted goal to concede.
No, I think you're right. I think it is a comedy of errors. That's just a disgraceful goal to concede. Against a team that are coming into the back of a 5-0 hiding, to give them a head start like that is ridiculous. And Totti, Bueno, and I'd argue Sarr could all do more to prevent that goal. It's just not good enough. It's Sunday League stuff, isn't it? You're in control of the ball, you're in possession. You don't give it away once, you give it away twice, and then you let the cross come in. And, again, the free header at the back post, you could almost say Semedo's sleeping as well, and the goalkeeping's a bit calamitous. It's just a mess all round, isn't it? And it just gave them belief, didn't it? It gave them something to hold on to. And, the Forest fans singing how crap Masubi be winning away, it gives everybody a lift and belief. So, yeah, it is. It's not acceptable, is it? It's not good enough. I mean, Totti was a disaster all afternoon, wasn't he? And Bueno wasn't far behind him. He seems to have lost his confidence. His no-fear approach has gone, hasn't it? Whether he's not fully fit or whether he's...
Well, he's been asked to play a lot of football in a short space of time, and he's been out quite a while, so...
But, that's our own fault. That's self-inflicted. I hate these excuses for any football club about being leggy or tired or not having the players. That's our own fault. Wolves have decided to go that way. And it's not good enough. The options aren't there, are they? Second half, there's no point having the extra centre-back and just keeping it. That's what I'm saying. And Ben's right. If we'd have made the sub and lost, we'd all be fuming. But there's got to be some middle ground, hasn't there? There's no point playing three centre-halves and just passing it and not going anywhere. But back to your question, terrible goal to concede. And yeah, it just gave Forest a lift.
Yeah, like you said, I mean, the players sort of ran through and out-muscled Semedo. Can Semedo do more? Of all the ones to blame, he's probably the least to blame with the players giving the ball away. I'm disappointed with Jose Sarr because, so you played a bit in goal yourself, Tyler. You either fully commit or you stay where you are. He got caught in no man's land. I think if you stay on his line and the header goes there, he's got that millisecond more to react. So for me, mainly, I'm disappointed with the keeper for that one. Moving on to something more positive, the best bit of the match, which was a high bit of quality, Ben. It was such a nice work goal. Football, there's a man taken on. Time, lovely threaded pass from Lamina, cut back from Sarabia, and a sweet finish from Kuna. Beautiful goal.
It was one of the better goals we've scored this season. I mean, I know the Sarabia one against Tottenham would be what everyone talks about, but you watch the quality of that goal on Saturday.
Pure, isn't it?
It was really good, and that is a big thing about this season as well. Is last season, as soon as we conceded a goal, even with when Lopetegui was manager, as soon as we conceded a goal, I thought probably lost the game. I'm fairly confident that we will score a goal at some point. We've got players that are now committing themselves, and there was another chance a couple of minutes after that Sarabia played a really nice ball back across, made the right option. The shot ended up getting blocked. I think it went across to Bueno, and Hugo Bueno just took a little bit too long.
He took an extra touch, yeah.
But Sarabia's got lovely quality. He is a strange player because he's so good, but then he's also partly the reason why Wolves were a bit slow. Because that's what he wants to do, and that's what he does best, slowing the game down and playing quality passes. And you can allow that when he does what he did for the goal. But you're taking one thing and getting another, which is why he was £5 million and not, £50 million, because you look at his quality and he's so good. But yeah, it's a brilliant goal. One of probably my favourite goal that we've scored this season.
Yeah, from a team perspective, Tyler, and I know we all, I mean, some of us like volleys, spectacular goals, runs, but as a team, as a team goal, isn't going to get much better than that. It had a bit of everything.
Yeah. No, it was genuine quality. It had the lot of movement, passing, and that's why it's so almost frustrating that the one time you do it, you carve them open and score, and it's just a shame we couldn't find it again or a couple of times. And yeah, Sarabia splits opinion, doesn't he? But Ben's right. The guy oozes quality and ability. And I suppose that's the point I'm talking about is, can you have a plan B? Can you change it up to find him a bit of a free role and then enable a Bellegarde to come on, or even a Sasser? There's got to be something there as a backup plan, really. And who knows? You might go and win the game. Like Ben said, you might concede and lose the game, but that is the game. It's fine margins, isn't it? So
I think what's quite difficult as well is that it's a great thing to have, but when Hwang doesn't score a goal, he doesn't influence games that much. But you have to keep him on the pitch because at the moment he's finding his way
for the club at the moment.
Yeah, exactly. And it's obviously a completely different level of player, but Man City have the same issue with Haaland. When Haaland doesn't score, he's not contributing anything to the team. So, because you would say, right, okay, I think maybe you take Hwang off, you bring Bellegarde on, you give Sarabia a bit more freedom, but I'm not that comfortable taking Hwang off when you need a goal, just because my opinion of him has changed that drastically, where I think I trust him now. If he gets a chance, he's going to score it. And he's finding chances.
His goal against Burnley was
class.
The composure was fantastic. Yeah,
it was class.
Touch dummy finish, fantastic.
So again, you're making a compromise by saying one of our forward players probably isn't going to contribute that much unless he scores a goal. Because you finish Saturday and you go, did Hwang do anything? But it wasn't a vastly different performance to Burnley when he scored the winning goal. So.
If he's doing that every other game to the rest of the season, Ben, we're going to be very, very happy. So yeah, I mean, we've all been eating humble pie about Hwang for a couple of months now, and long might continue.
It's not just the Burnley game. You'd argue it's most games. I don't want to come across wrong or harsh, but he doesn't contribute most games to link up or build up until he comes deep. But on with you can't drop him, you can't leave him out, you can't take him off, because if you want it to fall to anyone, it is him. Yeah. But it's not just the Burnley and the Forest game. It's probably a lot of games this season where he doesn't contribute, but then scores.
Which is fine. That is fine.
I'm absolutely fine with it. Exactly. Yeah, not a problem.
I think we were obviously treated quite a lot by Jimenez, because Jimenez was such a massive influence on games and scoring goals when he was at his peak, which is what Cunha can be as well, actually, the way that he started to find those areas as well. Because that was a run that he wouldn't have made the back end of last season. He weren't going to follow that crossing from Sarabia to be there to tap home from 5 yards. He's making those types of runs now because his confidence is up and he looks a bit more assured finishing as well. Because if you remember, Man United first game of the season, he was just everything but the finish. And, he looks a lot more confident in front of goal now as well, which is really positive.
Well, while we're talking about the players, let's go through the team then. Start off with Jose Sarr. Tyler, we talked about him briefly earlier, and there's not really a lot to talk about, but he did get us out of jail with one really good save. But equally, I do think he's the most guilty for Wolves conceding.
I wouldn't agree with that. I'd agree he shouldn't have to do anything if Totti and Bueno do their job properly. It shouldn't even be a cross into the box. We're lucky that the second chance fell to Kouyaté, because I think if it's a forward player, we're down, aren't we? You repeat yourself every week. It's a game where he's had very little to do, and we still end up conceding and not winning the game. So it's just disappointing, really. He didn't do anything wrong. Some people were saying, did Bentley deserve to keep his place? And I was sort of in that camp a little bit, but Sarr did no wrong. He was quite comfortable with his feet second half. You just want him to come and smash that cross, don't you? You want him just to come and Matt Murray it and just come and eat it and drink it, and then you might get a win. But what did you give him? 5 out of 10, 6 out of 5 out of 10, maybe. 6
out of 10, yeah.
I was a bit more concerned about the chance in the second half, because that's something that happens too much to Sarr when he gets his positionings can be really poor on crosses, and ended up in no man's land. And Toffolo had an open goal that he's headed over, and that happens a lot with Sarr, where balls just tend to
that's what happened for the goal
coming over his head, and he leaves a lot of chances like that. To me, Sarr's still the best keeper at the club, so he plays. Like I don't really think it's a discussion. I think it was a nice story, and Bentley made some nice saves, and he's a good quality backup keeper, which is important. Sarr's still the best keeper.
Yeah, I think so. I kind of agree with Tyler a bit as well. Sarr is definitely the best keeper, but you kept Arsenal out for the time you've been on the pitch, and you've pulled off 2 really good saves for Burnley. So Bentley could probably feel himself a little bit unlucky, but that probably tells us how much better Sarri is when you can drop someone after not conceding for the best part of 1.7 games. So, Ben, moving on to the back three, we'll group him up as the three centre-backs. Talk to you about Totti, Dawson, and
you can't group Totti. You've got to keep Totti separate. Sure.
I've kept him away from you, mate. I've absolutely kept him away from you. We can't have that.
Talk about Totti.
Ben, do me a favour then. Talk about Dawson and Kilman.
Yeah, I thought Dawson was fine. Didn't have an issue. I thought Kilman was okay, and then did what I fear he does a lot, which is he just
switches
particularly and like Tyler says, if that's a different team, that's a goal. Against any other, I just find he's a little bit relaxed, and
he's so talented, and talented players do that, don't they?
No, but he's not that talented. He's a good player. He's not talented enough to be doing that. Like he is very relaxed, and it's a persona. Like he looks like languid when he's playing, and that does concern me. And those types. I mean, but when he's got the ball and coming into midfield and picking passes, is obviously a brilliant technical player. But those sorts of things, it might just be one of these things that happen like once a season. They just stick in my head, but they do. I can't really say anything about Dawson. I don't. Did he do anything wrong particularly?
He's just good every week, Dawson, isn't he? I mean, I keep saying it in terms of £3.5 million spent. Him and Mario Lemina and Lopetegui, to agree, I've got to say that, kept Wolves up last season, but particularly Dawson and particularly Lemina, you're getting them pair for just over 12, 13 million quid. It is incredible business in modern football. And Dawson, I don't think Dawson was ever quick, whether it was at Rochdale or them lot down the road. He's never been quick. So hopefully we can keep him for a couple of years because he's just solid, isn't he? I mean, I'm not sure we can play a higher line with Craig Dawson, but he's such a good defender, and I love watching him play. And he's 7 out of 10 every week for me.
Right, enough Dawson. Get on to Totti.
Sorry, no, I'm just going to say on the flip side to that, we talk about it a lot, Ryan. I'm not even going to talk about part, but I'm not you. I love Dawson, but does he hold us back from playing a back four? Does his lack of pace, lack of agility, his lack of movement hold us back? Because you and the lads.
It's a horrible question, but it's a great question.
You keep saying we can't play a back four, but I think it's only Luton and Sheffield United and us that play a back three. So what's holding us back? And a lot of people say it's Dawson's lack of pace. It's something to think about long term. And I'm with you. I love him. He's class, but his best days are behind him. And if you're moving forward, is he a long-term option?
Well, it's what we had with Cody, essentially, isn't it? Cody was a really good, however that ended.
Dawson's better than Cody.
No, Cody gave you the passing. Dawson hasn't got that range.
Yeah. Cody offered a lot. I know that it ended badly, but for two years, he was a really good defender. He was a very, very good, but he was also the reason we couldn't play a four. So,
just one thing with Dawson then. And our performances this season, Wolves are going to buy 9 in January. That's an improvement. Ain't Nori's fit, Neto's fit. You're playing with wing backs then, and you don't really mind it because we're dangerous then. So it's only now because we've got our total left-hand side out. We don't have a number 9. We are having to be a little bit more defensive. So I think I never thought I'd be saying this again, but with a full team, I quite like us with wing backs at the moment because it's different, it's positive, and they're getting forward. So we shall see. But this is the moment we've all been waiting for. Chris, talk to you about Totti Gomez.
I don't want to sound harsh, but I can't remember his performance as poor as that
with the ball
in the Premier League. His passing was I'm being kind calling it passing. I think it was passing, but it was an absolute disgrace. I'm sorry, it's what you teach your kids. You said it. They're all hospital passes. Not one pass went where it was meant to go. And then I feel harsh on him because I think he's an athletic, strong centre.
He's done well this season.
He's brilliant without the ball, but we're now asking him on Saturday to play a role where he's got so much of the ball because of the formation we're playing and because they've got one striker. And it's not his fault. He's not good enough to do what Ben's just said about Max Kilman. Max Kilman will carry that ball out, he'll dribble, he'll take people on, he'll pass it. It's not Toti's fault he's not got that in his locker, and we're asking him to do something he can't do. Coupled with Bueno, I mean, like Ben said, how in a Premier League game a team can literally basically ignore half of your pitch because it's that poor tells you all you need to know. That's how bad they both were, and it was really disappointing. He was all right, in the challenge with his headers, but you can't play football like that in the Premier League. You can't be that bad on the ball. I'm sorry, and it's what he's got to improve on if he wants to keep his place.
I think he was exposed a little bit more. I know I've mentioned it before, but not having Ait-Nouri there, because that's an easy pass, and then Ait-Nouri progresses up the pitch. When you haven't got that and you're asking him to do that, that's not his game. And I think
he's limited, yeah.
And I think Lemina and Gomez aren't players that necessarily travel with the ball either. So when you've got those two midfielders and no Ait-Nouri, and asking Totti to do a job of what he doesn't do well, that's when he's exposed, because he doesn't normally look that bad. Like, that is, for me, that's as bad as I've ever seen him play.
That's debatable, but yeah,
that is as bad as I've ever seen him play. To me, he's not usually that bad, and it made to look worse from the personnel that we had out, which are for reasons that we've explained.
It's crazy though with him, and there's no doubt about it. I mean, I did my ratings; he was a 3 out of 10, and before I spoke to Tyler, I mean, we were close to being a 2, because I don't recall a worse passing performance from a Wolves defender since I've ever watched Wolves. It was horrendous. Yet this is a player that's man-marked Phil Foden, didn't give him a kick. He kept Villas Diaby, an absolute flyer. When Wolves are the inferior team, he manages to mark very good players out of the game. And you nailed it, Tyler. He's way better without the ball than when he's got it. So are we being harsh on him? Well, we're here to call it out. And his passing was just outrageously bad. Without the ball, was he bad? I think he won all the tackles and his battles fine. But with the ball, it was an absolute stinker. But
it sounds harsh. He didn't play football till he was, 15, 16, did he? And that's when you can tell that someone hasn't started playing football till they're 15, 16. Compare it to the Kilman, who obviously has played it his whole life and played five-a-side football. That's the difference you see at this level, and it's cutthroat, isn't it? But I agree with Ben, and I said it myself, it's not fair on him. You're asking him to play a role that he just can't do. He's not capable of it.
Absolutely. Ben, moving on to the wing-backs in the forms of Hugo Bueno and Nelson Semedo.
I'd probably give Semedo a 6 and Bueno maybe like a 4.5. I thought Semedo was the better of the two, got forward quite well. But yeah, like I said, on the other side, as far as I was concerned, Forest were happy to let him have all the ball that he wanted. And, we've just mentioned about Gomez as well, that yes, he has man-marked Foden out of games and stuff, which is, in the long term, you'd say, well, if we had another type of defender for games like Forest at home, which is why we're still at the start of really this entire project and the rebuild of the entire squad. And we've had, I would say, a window. We've had a week of a window, and there's still work to do in lots of areas. And left back's another one of those. Right, Semedo again, like there wasn't a great deal of quality when he got into areas, but he's still getting into areas, so I'm not going to ping him too badly for that. And yeah, I thought Semedo, I don't think it was one of his better games, but
Tyler, moving on to the centre midfield, again, players that look better against better opposition, that they can press, squeeze, absorb, and then break fast. So to Mario Lemina and Joao Gomez.
Yeah, I mean, I must have said it a million times. It's these games where I do worry about them because of that lack of ability to get on the ball, dictate it, and play. I think Lemina's got it in his locker, and Lemina was involved in the goal, wasn't he? Got it, played it forward, and we scored from it. I'd have liked to see
pass from Lemina.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. That he can obviously do it. So I'd like to see maybe a bit more of a Gomez anchor and Lemina a bit freer, which we've seen in other games where Lemina's pushed forward, but it didn't really seem to happen on Saturday. And Ben's right. Forest had a very athletic midfield that did overrun us at certain parts, especially in the second half. My only thing is, could we have changed it up in there? Could we have mixed it up a bit more? Could Doyle have come on maybe earlier? The Boubacar substitution, obviously Lemina's injured, killed us a little bit, didn't it? But they both did fine. They both did their job. It's just those games that I worry about because we just need that bit of quality, and those two normally don't give it you.
Yeah, what I would say about Mario is the bit that's improved his game this season. I think he has got furthermore. He's got 2 goals this season, I think, and he's playing that kind of through ball to Sarabia. We didn't see him do that last season. We saw him decking people, winning the ball and giving it back. And he's actually probably a better footballer than we've given him credit for, because that pass it's such a lovely weighty ball.
Nice. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I'm delighted, but your point definitely stands against in teams who we're playing that will tuck in. Those two are struggling to open them up. So yeah, maybe looking at Doyle future. Moving on to the forward 3, Ben. I'm going to give Tyler Pablo Sarabia because he just loves him. So he's had a moment, so let's have him some magic. So tell me about Matheus Cunha.
Yeah, I'd probably give him like a 7.5, maybe an 8. I thought he was our best player. I thought he was our best player. I did.
He put an absolute shift in.
I thought Sarabia's pass was the notable moment of the whole game. Like, for me, that's as good as scoring a goal, because Cunha didn't have a lot to do. So Sarabia was the standout moment. I just think Cunha's just offers so much at the minute.
He seems to be scoring or assisting nearly every week, and
I love him. I think he's honestly. I think he's so good. I think he's so good.
When you said 8 out of 10, Ben, I could just see love in your eyes, mate. I think we've got
if he gets 10 goals this season, or something, if he ends on 10 goals, I can't even talk about him. I think he's that good. I do think he's absolutely quality.
Ben has officially split up with Fabio, and now he's with Cunha.
Mate, after watching him at Old Trafford the first game of the season, I was like, sat there open mouthed, and he didn't score. And I just thought, if he'd have scored that, it was the best Wolves performance I've ever seen. And I'll happily stick that.
We were sensational at Old Trafford. I mean, it's just we were.
No, him individually was the best individual performance.
I got you.
But obviously he missed about 9 sitters, so you can't really give it him. But if he adds goals to his game, I think he's got everything. And I think he's becoming a real leader in that team. And
he's a likeable guy. He seems to, he's creative, and he's not just scoring. I mean, that's probably his closest finish this season, but a great goal at Arsenal. The Bournemouth away finish was instinctive. He's starting to really show his quality, and he probably should do for £40 million, but it's great to see because he's hungry. He wants to get forward. He seems to have got it all, and he does really, really put a shift in. I'm going to talk about Hwang Hee-chan. I know we're talking about already. I think you've absolutely hit the nail on the head, guys. There that you only see the notice Hwang when he's scoring. Now, if you're scoring every other game, then I'm more than happy for that. If you're going to be quiet, he defends well from the front. People said he didn't really put it in the weekend, but I thought there was a lot of tired players. That it's a hard game. Not really a hard game with the ball, but there's lots of effort asked of these players. And when you're defending from the front, no matter how fit you are, that's a lot to do. And he asked a lot of the players. And I thought Hwang was a bit leggy. I don't think it was effort. I just think he was genuinely knackered. But put his shift in, didn't really do much defending from the front. But you said it before, Tyler, he had this run of form. Hwang does a lot of his best work before he started scoring without the ball. He'll do exactly as you tell. He'll press, he'll squeeze, he'll track. He's a very, very good team player without the ball. And credit to him for that. But otherwise, I can't really credit him for much else because I don't really remember anything. But Tyler, tell me about Pablo Sarabia.
I mean, he was
the highs of one and the lows of another. Let's go.
I do like him. Probably not as much as Ben loves Cunha, but I do like him. Just class. Like like Ben said, that ball, the only Wolves player you want that to go to is Sarabia because you know he's going to pick his man out. And he's had some good moments this season. He was involved in the goal against Burnley. Obviously, Tottenham we know about. And I thought he was probably with Cunha, probably, the best player on the pitch. His work ethic was superb, Cunha, that is. And then I thought Sarabia just added that bit of quality. And I suppose that's what I keep coming back to. Can we find a way of not building the team around him, but giving him a bit more of a pivotal role where things can go through him and then a bit slower because you've got a Neto, a Hwang, a Cunha in front of him. Can we ever get to that point? I don't know. We might not be able to. But I think what's refreshing, and we talked about it the day, is all the forwards really. They're all contributing. The output from all of them is good. I'm looking at Neto's got 8 good goal contributions. Cunha's got 8 goal contributions. Sarabia's got 4 in his limited time. And I think Hwang's on 10. That's goals and assists.
Good numbers.
We've gone from having a striker that can't score for a year to all of our forward players.
He's scoring now, though.
They're contributing exactly. They're doing what they should be doing. Now, can we have the goals from midfield, from set pieces, from wing back, just to complement them? But the front four, Neto, Sarabia, Hwang and Kuna, are all doing what's being asked of them this season.
Yeah, absolutely. Great ratings from Ben and Tyler. You are listening and watching episode 82 of the Wolves Report with Mirror Football's Ben Husband, our Director of Football, Chris Tyler, and myself, Ryan Lester. We aren't quite halfway through the season. We're just over a third through. Just want to get your brief take on what's happened so far. Gary O'Neill comes in with 3 days before the season. You've lost Lopetegui, who seems to think he's bigger and better than Wolves. He may be. We'll find out when he takes his next job. Maybe it's at Old Trafford. Who knows? But, I mean, I think I said to you at the start of the season, Tyler, I said 12th is where I think this team's capable of. I was laughed at a little bit, but mainly that was because of the teams at the bottom were probably a lot worse than we was expecting, really. But I think it's been a better start to the season than I expected. Now, it probably doesn't feel like that having the last few performances, but the league table and beating Man City and beating Spurs and some other decent performances away at Old Trafford tell us it's been a decent start to the season.
Yeah, I think that's how we have to see it. I'm just looking at my phone. I mean, it's fine margins, isn't it? If we had a win Saturday, we'd probably sat in 10th. And we're all buzzing off that, aren't we? The margins are so fine that's football, isn't it? And I think there's still fans out there that, for whatever reason, still think we should be challenging top half, Europa League. We're just nowhere near that at the moment.
You know,
budget-wise, player quality-wise, manager-wise, that's not where we are now. And yeah, we've sort of said 12th to 14th, haven't we, a lot on this show? And if we can finish 12th, that's good. I'd like to think we can finish 10th, because I don't think there's much quality apart from 3 or 4 teams in this league. I think it's very average. But I said early in the season, if he's in charge, he might take us down. There is an element of luck that the 3 bottom teams look dead and buried already, don't they, really? And yeah, it'd be interesting on January, I think, until he's had at least one window, but realistically 2 or 3 of his own windows to get his own players in. We can't be critical with where we are. We're scoring goals again. It's better on the eye. My only slight criticism would be that plan B for the weaker teams. That's all I could really knock him for, really.
Ben, it's been a decent start to the season. There's been some spectacular results. There's been, at the start of the season, a lot of hard luck stories with VAR, but there was some genuinely good halves of football. I thought Wolves had a good first half against Liverpool. I thought they were great the whole game against Man United. I thought they had a decent half against Brighton. But you're punished by teams there with a bit more quality. Well, not so much Man United, but Brighton and Liverpool in particular. But it hasn't been as exciting as it was then now, but they seem to have become a little bit restricting the opponents a little bit more now. The plan defensively looks a bit better than it was.
Yeah, I know I keep going on about it, but we're missing our best attacking player, and we have done for even the Newcastle game that he got injured in. There's a reason that Wolves have become more pragmatic, and it's because they're missing their best attacking player, and they've still picked up a few points. Yes, he needs a plan B. He's also, as I said, 4 months into a job that he had no prep on over the summer. And in my opinion, if you think back, Lopetegui had us winning games that we should win, and was doing well in that respect. The games against sides that we were expected, we were dreadful. And when I say dreadful, as bad as it's been, complete surrenders,
smashed.
And Wolves aren't getting Wolves. Brighton wasn't great, but aside from that, we've not really been embarrassed by anyone. We don't look like being embarrassed. And yeah, there's still things that he needs to work on. And I think there's the picking up results against sides around us. We need to start putting in better performances. I mean, the 3 priority teams are all dreadful. But I think that almost makes our points tally look more impressive when you think of the points that we've actually got off them. We lost to Sheffield United, who are terrible. Only got a point off Luton, which actually looks a better result when you look at what they've done to other teams at Kenilworth Road. It's basically
horrible.
It's the new Stoke, isn't it? That is what teams are gonna have. It's going to be horrible. Got a point there. Got something against Burnley, but I think we're right in the mix of being. I think we can be anywhere from 8th to 14th. But for the reason that Tyler said, I think there's a lot of dross. And for me, if Wolves get more consistent, they're better than at least 10 teams in the league. The reason that Wolves wouldn't finish in the top half is because the squad's not big enough and we're not able to be consistent enough. On their day, Wolves are, for me, better than half of the Premier League teams. Yeah. And that's where they should be aiming for. But I think what we have to appreciate is that this season there are going to be weekends where the final whistle goes and we're scratching our heads going, what on earth was that? But then there's also going to be weekends where we're going, that was incredible, because that is what this team is at the moment. So I think a bit of sort of perspective on where we are. I think, in my opinion, we're a better side than we were under Lopetegui last season. More exciting, easier to watch on the eye. And he solved, for me, O'Neill solved the biggest issue, which was we looked like a team in the third round of the FA Cup when we played against anyone in the top six, and not a team that were trying to win, a team that had rested all their players because they were focusing on Barrow away at the weekend. Whereas we look like a good Premier League team again now. Like even like neutrals, people like Merson, Carragher, Neville, they'd all said, like, I couldn't watch Wolves games. They were so boring. And at least now, if a team beats Wolves, they've had to work for it. Arsenal were buzzing to beat us. Absolutely buzzing, because Wolves have become now a difficult job for any team.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll take that. Just to end this section then, guys. Tyler, tell me where Wolves are going to finish the end of the season.
12th.
Ben, you can beat that.
10th.
We'll take that. Absolutely take that. I'll sit somewhere in the middle there. Well, I'm still going to stick with my 12. That's what I said at the start of the season. It's a horrible, horrible cup draw. We say we want a cup run every year. If we draw, we could play Brentford four times in like 6 weeks, and that is disgusting. So hopefully Wolves can progress, but it's a horrible, horrible night. And the good thing is, though, it's moved for TV if you don't live in the UK. But there we go. Let's move on to the questions section of the show of episode 82 of the Wolves Report with Mirror Football's Ben Husband, Director of Football Chris Tyler, and myself, Ryan Lester. Dr. Paul Mansell asked the first question: although we are yet to concede a goal from a corner this season, are we missing a trick at the other end of the pitch, given that we have Totti, Dawson, and Kilman? Ben?
I reckon Tyler should answer this, because Sarabia's looked world class on corners. So I reckon he should. No. Like if they
corner on corners.
Well, I would. I'd have them take everything. Throw-ins, corners, goal kicks. Yeah. I'd like to see us look a bit more dangerous from set piece. They've got the personnel for it, and it's a real clear advantage that they should have with those. Particularly Dawson and Totti, they're dangerous players. Lemina's good in the air as well.
Just a quick question on that, Ben, just to throw it into you. Sorry to jump in. I don't believe that Sarabia is lacking quality to beat the first man. I genuinely believe that's been an instruction. I don't believe someone of his level, who's a Spanish international footballer, is struggling to make the near post. I think he's been instructed and looking for the flick on, and it's just not worked out. Now, when it goes wrong there, you can see everybody. It's like, well, just get it. Like I used to say, get it in the mixer. But that near post corner, unless you get it right, you're going to get stick. So I genuinely think that was an instruction and not his lack of quality.
If that's what you're going with, we'll go with it.
Wow. You think he's not good enough to beat the first man?
I think you're being kind, Ryan.
No, I think that's being very generous. I think they've been shocking, and they've just been not very good corners, in my opinion. And Neto will be back on them when he's playing. Yeah,
I'm not buying a Spanish international can't beat the first man. I believe he's been trying to hit the near post for the flick on.
There was no one within about 12 yards of the one of them.
That was a bad one. Anyway, next question. Richard Holmes asked, do we have the players to address this tepid football of the last 3 games, or must it wait the next month? I think, which is talking about the return of Neto and Ait-Nouri, which is a fair question, Chris.
Yeah, I think Ben's covered it earlier. You're missing 2 of your most attack-minded players. You've got to remember that. If any bottom half team had that, they'd be struggling. Is it an excuse? I don't know. Like I said, I don't like using injuries as an excuse. You've said it yourself, Ryan. He doesn't trust the subs. He doesn't trust Sasa, Fabio. It didn't look like he trusted Sarabia. That's an issue, isn't it? So I think to answer the question, do we have the players at the moment? No, I don't think we do. But with those two back in January, plus hopefully a striker, I'd like to think it would get better.
Great stuff there. This one's from Greg, a regularly contributed to the Wolves report. And 9 is the main priority in January from me. Do you think a centre-back would allow us to play a 4 would also be another priority, allowing us to be more expansive at home, in particular against other teams? Ben?
Definitely, yeah, but 100%, like, that is spot on. You know, we've already spoken about it earlier. I mean, the problem we've got is that everybody wants a number 9 that can score 20 goals and wants a ball-playing centre-back that you can comfortably stick and play a back 4. They don't grow on trees. They're not easy to find. Hopefully, you know, I have actually got some level of confidence in the current recruitment setup at Wolves to potentially address that. But it might not be that they're both. If you were to find both of those in January, then it's one of the best windows we've had in like recent history. Because if you can find a number 9 that scores those types of goals and your centre back, then it's incredible. But I think that's optimistic to think you're going to get them both. But that is what you should be looking for, yeah.
I mean, it's definitely not out of the question. When you probably think, judging on recent games, Fabio's probably gone. I'm sorry, Ben. I still wouldn't rule out Sarabia departing because he's probably going to want to start every week, and I'm not sure it may keep him. I wouldn't be surprised if Wolves could get some money for him. I wouldn't be surprised if a forward comes in, Sasha's on the way as well. Then I think Johnny's probably gone. Is Goncalo Guedes going to get a permanent move back to Spain? I think Valencia we talked about getting him. So there is some money to bring in to sort of bolster things up. So, I mean, this sort of then leads back to what's happened to Santiago Bueno. Is he not going to be good enough? Is he not had enough time? It's an interesting one, but he looks like a player as well that I'm not really sure he's going to play a high line, even though I think he played an aggressive high line when he played in Spain. So I'd love to be proven wrong. Thank you for your contribution, Greg. Paul Nichols asks, why do we have the annoying habit of dropping the levels of the opposition, but have no issues raising our game for City, Villa and Spurs, etc.? Is it motivational aspect?
Sorry, could you read that again, Ryan?
Absolutely not. I got in an absolute pickle then. I was looking at the comments at the same time. I mean, I understand what Paul's saying, Tyler, but I do think it's a little bit harsh in a way, because when we play against certain teams, they tuck in, as we've talked about at the start of the show, just to annoy and bamboozle Wolves.
Yeah. I mean, going back years, I think Wolves have always been better as the underdog. And I think those teams play into our hands, they pop it about, but then if we can win it, there's nobody better at breaking quicker than Kuna, Neto, and almost Twang to a point, and potentially Bellegarde. So our players that we've got at the moment are built for that. They're built for nicking the ball, spinning, and flying, basically. And we just don't have the personnel to break them down, which we've covered. I'd like to think it's not motivation. I haven't seen many performances this season where I could question Wolves, whether they're trying hard enough or whether they're motivated. I just think it's difficult at this level. If someone's playing a back 5 with 3 or 4 in front of them, it's difficult to break them down. It's what they'll be working on all week in training, is being tight. So comes back to what we've said all show. I just think it's a sign of where we are at the moment, the players we have, and what we're trying to do.
I would say, on to Paul's question, it's in the last 2 games, it's more of a frustration aspect than a motivation aspect, because you could see the fans getting frustrated and Wolves going left and right, and then the players were almost forced into trying to play a 2% pass that wasn't on, and you can understand that, and I bet that's frustrating for the manager as well. But I don't think it's anything to do with motivation. I'm too frightened to read the question again because I can't get my teeth back in. But I don't think it's a motivation aspect. I think it's a lack of creativity against the team that tucks in aspect, which can make you probably look worse than you really are. But you have to credit, if a team tucks in to frustrate and bore, they've just been spanked 5, they've come to Molyneux against a fast counter-attacking team. What are you going to do? I'm going to stifle it. So thank you for your question, Paul. Call Hand Adas, the players look a bit jaded. Is it time to get some warm weather training and a bit of downtime? It seemed to work under Nuno. Ben, thank goodness I read that question out.
Yeah, I think they did. They definitely did look jaded this week. They're having to work a lot harder than they did under the previous couple of managers. They're working like the stuff off the ball is a lot more intense than it has been, and I think that's where they've fell short. And I think there's also, it's a small squad, as we've mentioned. It's a really, especially when the manager doesn't trust a lot of the squad players, it becomes an even smaller squad. So I think they have looked jaded. And I keep coming back to it, but this isn't an O'Neill team yet, really. He's basically come in, and then since he's come in, he's been focusing on the next game. He hasn't actually had any time with the players to get them to a level, I don't think, that he would want them at. Because I still don't think they're quite where he'd want in terms of their fitness levels. And so, we've got January's a really quiet month with a bit of a winter break, FA Cup match. I don't think we play until about the 20th in the Premier League after the New Year's fixture. So there's a nice gap there, a bit of time to maybe get some reinforcements in. So get to there, and like I've said, I think it's about ticking off games this month. And if they do look jaded and get results, then that's fine with me.
Yeah, I mean, it did work as well. But who doesn't like a nice bit of winter sun just to top your tan up or get that vitamin D, whatever you want to do? I mean, I don't really know enough about Gary O'Neill to knew what he did to do with Bournemouth, but I wouldn't be surprised if that happened, Aid. And I think it's a really good idea. And if there's an opportunity to go somewhere where he can get that done, yeah, absolutely. Hopefully they do. But agree what Ben said. They do look a little bit tired. But if you're playing with a limited players that you trust and you're asking them to graft again and again and again, it is going to catch up. Thank you for being part of the show. Final question I've got off Twitter, but I've had a few that have come through recently as well. I'm going to read off my phone. Tyler, Carl Whitehouse asks, when are we going to stop this slow from the start games, and what would you do to stop it from happening? Jay, just on top of that as well, Jay also messaged just before the show. We've conceded first in 8 of the last 9 games. Slow starters, which opposition are fully aware of, need to be beaten on the front foot from the first minute. Tyler.
Yeah, I think your second statement has almost answered the first one, hasn't it? It is a concern. The lack of clean sheets in itself is a concern. I think it's 2 all season. But yeah, in this league, you can't keep going a goal behind. It's hard enough as it is. We all know that. We all know how difficult it is. Again, it comes down to the last question. Are they doing it on purpose? No. Is O'Neill sending them out to start slow? Of course he's not. But it's something they do need to nip in the bud, because we'd all agree when Wolves do pass it quick and when we do move quicker, we're a different force, aren't we? It's not always possible. The opposition don't always let you do it. But early goals, isn't it? It's early goals against Spurs, Fulham, Arsenal, Forest. It is a theme that's becoming too common, and it does need nipping in the bud.
This sort of overlaps. For another one, this is another question from Chris Chisnall asks, I don't think we're in good form at all at the moment. 2 out of 3 abject displays. Why do you think this is? And what will the catalyst be to improve it into a busy Christmas period? Overlapping to that question, Ben.
Neto. I know we keep going back to it, but like, you do have to have that as a caveat. And yeah, they haven't been great the last 2 games. There was never a point against Burnley that I thought they weren't going to win the game. And there wasn't a point on Saturday where I thought they were going to lose the game. So if that's us not playing well, then I can take that.
Yeah, it's going back to the old saying of, I don't know the exact saying of it, but I mean, if you can't win, don't lose. And Wolves have become far more solid in those games. I mean, I know it was only 1-0 against Burnley, but without battering Burnley, they couldn't get near Wolves. There was the 2 saves from a self-inflicted mistake, but from open play and creativity, Wolves were excellent without the ball and stopping them. Tyler, Mr. Moonlight.
Just on the, obviously probably one for Ben a bit with Cunha, but just on the statement about we all agree we want a 9 and we need to sign a 9. If we sign a 9, what does that mean for Cunha? Because like we've said, we're not dropping Wang at the moment. I don't think we can drop Cunha, and Neto's always going to start. So is the 9 to be an impact player and mix it up, or what we think?
It's to give options, isn't it? Like the biggest problem that Wolves have is that you don't feel like we have options. So Saturday never felt like the game could change. But if there was a point where you could, because I wouldn't mind seeing something like Lamina and then one off Cunha or Sarabia behind a 9 with Hwang and Neto, or if you're going to play 2, you could have Cunha and a striker, or Cunha and Hwang, and then another striker. So, it just gives us more options. And Wolves fans have been conditioned to thinking that every player that you sign has to start because we've only ever had like 11 players since we've been promoted, and there is like most good teams will take players out and put players in for certain matches, which is what we've been talking about for most of the time today, is having different options for different games. Personally, I think Cunha will still start games. I think O'Neill really appreciates what he gives Wolves. But that would be nice headaches to have, what he doesn't have at the moment. He doesn't really have any, there's never really that much point in even checking the team news on a Saturday. You can guess 10 out of the 11 players if you know who's fit and who's not. There isn't going to be a great lot of deviation. So just more options. I think that's the most important thing.
Just jumping on what you said about Cunha, they made a really good point. So at the moment, he's been asked to play a position that isn't his best position, that he struggled with at the start of his time when he came in January. Tyler and Lockett said it multiple times, he doesn't look like a 9, but he's forced himself to play there and he's doing really well. But as we saw at Old Trafford, Ben, when that guy picks the ball up from deep against a team that's pressing us, he is incredible. The way he carries the ball from the midfield and opens up a team. If you've got a 9 in front of that and then a Neto or a Hwang or Sarabia for Tyler, if you've got that in front of somebody that is charging forward, I think a 9 gets even more out of him, because then he doesn't have to be up there. He can come and collect and go. Yeah,
I completely agree with all that. And I think something else that we have to appreciate is that Wolves aren't going to go and sign a striker that's going to be the finished article and need to play every week. That isn't what Wolves are going to be in the market for in January. It's going to be players in that sort of 10 to 12 million range. That I don't think Wolves are going to go out and sign someone, a number 9 that you say has to start every game, because I don't think that's the market Wolves are in. And I actually think that's the right thing to do. I don't think you need to go and spend another £40 million on another number 9 that has to start, that has to play, because you're just reducing what you can do and it becomes complicated. I think Wolves are trying to build a squad for the first time in a long time, and that's why I think it's a very valid question on where a insert number 9 comes in. But I'd be surprised if it's a player that everyone is going has to play every single week.
Well, hopefully it is, because if it is, it'll be some signing, especially with the way our forwards are producing with their numbers. Tyler, on Sunday afternoon at 2:00, we've got West Ham United away at the Olympic Stadium. Having watched West Ham and watched Wolves, West Ham don't really attack teams. Wolves don't really like breaking down teams that tuck in. It's going to be another tight game on Sunday.
Yeah, two teams I think for me of similar quality, and that's why we're both mid-table. They've obviously got, had a better run than us so far this season, but then they've got Wallop 5, haven't they? Are you too concerned about West Ham away? I don't think we need to go there with any apprehension or any fear. I don't think they're any better than us. Bowen's obviously a consistent performer, but I think if you can keep him quiet, I'd like to think we have enough in our ranks, for them to worry about us as well. And will we get a bit of time and a bit of space? I think so. They'll be under pressure to come out and play. They're on Moyes' back already. They'll want the performance. So hopefully they do come out and have a little go, and then we can hit them on the break. I'd rather play them away than at home, really, for that reason.
As we talked about earlier on, Ben, with the lack of trust in the options, is it more than likely to be the same 11 again? I mean, you can't drop Sarabia after he's played all right in the last 2 games and a fine assist. There's no real option for Hugo Brenner to come out. I can't see him dropping Tosi, so I don't see how it's not the same 11 again.
I think he might play Bellegarde over Sarabia. I think just because he gives you a little bit more pace on the break. And I'm not saying I agree with that, but that's what I think.
Away from home, that kind of makes more sense.
Yeah, that's where I think he'll go. Yeah, they're not a great.
Well. Sorry, on Bellegarde, I think he needs games. I think he's not one of these players who can come in and come out. If he's that player to play that position, as much as I love Sarabia, He's got to play games. He's got to get minutes in the tank. And he's got to get up to speed. Sorry to put in Ben, but I think he was the player that we're hanging our hat on, and I don't think it's his fault. It's been a bit stop-start. He just needs a run of games.
I think the type of players that they both are, I think Sarabia picks up the pace of games a lot quicker because he plays at his own pace. So I don't worry about him coming off the bench and contributing quality. I feel like Bellegarde's at the stage of his career that he's at, he needs to get into a game. And I don't always think he does that when he comes off the bench. Yeah. So if you were asking me which one I'd rather start, which one I'd rather bring on, I'd probably rather start Bellegarde and bring Sarabia on, you know, when they need to. But as we spoke, the biggest thing this weekend is starting well, because that place will get poisonous. If Wolves go 1-0 up early on, it will turn, and it will turn quick. But at the same time, if they get in front, they are a good side. Bowen's the type of side
they do tend to hold when they take the lead in games. They are tough to shift. Then they're because Moyes is very good defensively. He has them tucking, and it's horrible. And there's some big boys in the middle of that park as well. So moving on to the predictions at the end of episode 82 with Ben Husband, Chris Tyler, and myself, Ryan Lester. Tyler, you said you don't fear West Ham. There's nothing to worry about there. What is your prediction for Sunday afternoon?
I think it'll be another draw. I'll go 1-1 with just because Ben's on with Kuna to open the scoring.
Oh, look at Ben's face. Look how happy he is, Ben.
Wow. I think Wolves will lose 2-0.
Oh,
I know. This is the first time I've ever predicted a defeat. I don't know. It's just one of them games, like Sunday afternoon out the way. Like, Bowen worries me, the type of forward that he is. I think he'll pick
against
up good
Bueno and
spaces.
Tota.
Yeah, I think he'll pick up good areas and get in positions. Ward-Prowse hasn't scored a free kick since he's signed for West Ham, so that'll happen. I don't think West Ham are significantly better than Wolves. I've just got a feeling it might just be one of them afternoons that you just write it off. So either 2-0 to West Ham or 5-0 Wolves. Could to get all 5.
Just cover your options next.
Just clip either one.
Just to rescue Ben's prediction there, I'm going to go with the 1-0 Wolves and a Craig Dawson header, just for fun. This has been episode 82 of the Wolves Report. Thank you to Mirror Football's Ben Husband, our director of football, Chris Tyler. Looking forward to having Knocky back from Vegas next week, unless he's signed with David Beckham. I'm Ron Lester. Hope you enjoyed the show of the Wolves.